15th regular city council meeting. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming. First on the agenda is approval of additions to the agenda. I guess should list what they are. So additional bills for approval is the only addition. Okay, do we have a motion?
Mayor,
we accept the changes.
I have an addition to the agenda.
Okay.
I need to have an addition to the closed session where we're discussing respectful workplace complaints. I need one I got from the labor attorney, employment policies and issues.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Add to the agenda too.
Motion to put that on?
Well, you can approve it with the rest of the additions.
Charlie, we need a motion to approve that, or can it just be added? Okay. So do we have a motion for the consent calendar with additions?
I so move.
Motion, have a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, first we have a public hearing. We have a vacation request from Leo Varley. However, that request... Oh. We just did the additions. Oh, okay. Back up, we're on B, public forum. Action may or may not be taken on any issues raised. If council requires more information or time for consideration, the issue will be placed on the agenda of our next regular council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. At the discretion of the mayor, each speaker is given a 3-minute time limit. Does anybody have anything? Hey, Bob, welcome.
Good evening. My name is Bob Perkins, 35333 County Road 37, Cross Lake. Just a couple of things, a couple of thank yous. I had an opportunity to call 911, had tremendous support from the city, fire department. I don't see the fire department represented tonight, but thank you for what they do, the support that they provide the community. I went to the cemetery around Memorial Day, had a private funeral. Thank you, Shar, for what you do. Thank you, Ted, for what you do. And then the crosswalks and the trails, just a little thing. I mean, I know there was a hole that was filled here recently. I appreciate that. I walk our trails every day. Crossing the roads here are difficult. So I appreciate the painting, however that came about. If someone came in the middle of the night and spray painted it, or someone got out with a brush. But thanks for what you guys do for the community. Appreciate it.
Bob, I would tell you to stick around a little bit. We're going to cover more of the crosswalk and trails in our public safety committee.
I do plan on sticking around. Good. I just wanted to say thank you at the beginning here.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Does anybody else have anything? Not seeing anybody moving. We'll close. Okay. All right. Good. So we'll close public forum. Next is the consent calendar. All items here are listed as are considered to be routine by the city council and will be acted on by one motion. So this, Marcia, is where you want to add, or no, you're already done that. Okay. You're already done. So. I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar. Okay. Do we have a second? Second. Motion and a second. Any other discussion on it? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now, the public hearing. We had a road right-of-way vacation request from Leo Varley. We did that, I guess, at the Public Works meeting. They have withdrawn their vacation application. But I understand there's some people here that wanted to get up and say something about it. So come on up.
Cindy Gibbs, 1410 14th Avenue Northeast Brainerd. I am across the area that we were talking about prior to. We're just pretty much here in consensus that we would like to see it move forward, that the access, which is a deeded access that was deeded in 1927 by Mr. Condon, and we'd like to see that developed, put the stairway back into that area, and you know, it'd be a bonus if we got a dock straight out. I think it would be beneficial for the people of the area to do that, because it was at one time there on that access. So I know there's proper channels, committee meetings. I would like to ask that it get moved forward.
Cindy, could I ask how many of the audience is here with you?
I've got, raise your hands, how about that? So.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll voice my opinion on it first, and then we'll
Okay.
open it up.
Thank you.
But my feeling for these accesses, you know, like we talked about months ago, is if the neighborhood supports it and uses it, I think we should leave them be. And I really don't see the point of having a public access that you cannot use. So I think what you're asking for is to put the stairs back in and the ability to use it. So I personally would support that. I don't know if we can achieve that here at the council level, but you know, let's talk about it. How do you guys feel about it?
One of the problems I understood was the fact that the stairs were not on the access area. Maybe I misunderstood that, but it was on lot 13 or something like that.
That's what somebody had claimed. But
Yeah, well, but that's the person that removed it.
That's not true. I can take you
Up,
there.
up to the podium. I'm sorry, but we can't hear you otherwise.
Sorry. I actually, because I didn't think we were going to be able to speak, but I actually have photos from back in 1980, well, actually probably like 79. I was fortunate enough to get in an airplane with a resident of the area, and I did take a picture of the whole area right there, because our cabin was there next to the other property, which is, again, the Varley property that he owns. If you do go there, I mean, there's 2 square holes that are about that far from the tree, clump of trees that in the pictures that I have, that shows that is where the stairway is. And according to the survey that was done for the property or for the Vacation Act question, it does show that that stairway was there. You can tell it was there. Don Berry couldn't make it today because of work. He did reassure me, along with his brother, after this meeting we had last week, that it was never on Lot 13 when they bought it. John Keller owns the property on the other side of Lot 13, and it was never on Lot 13 as well. I think what happened was speculation, if you want. It's probably not right to do that, but removing the stairway made it easier to put the rocks down that they put in along their property, which is also should be brought to attention. There is still about 4 to 5 feet on the access that has those rocks still on there. So making it more dangerous for anybody to even walk down there, which nobody's doing because of the danger of those rocks and the slipperiness of the sand. So that might be a question to have to be removed. But I know for a fact that those stairways were, that was not on Lot 13. That was built and put on the access. I do know that.
Okay, thank you. So it's TJ's thing, right? His committee?
Yeah. I guess the bigger question is, if we're gonna have these access lots, you know, what are we gonna do with them? The purpose of having the access lots was the ability of the off-lake people to get to the lake. I think that's the intention of them, correct?
Yeah, I think what we have to address is what's in our ordinance, and that these right-of-ways shall not be improved. So that's our first step, is to address that, and then we can move on and maybe pinpoint these accesses that are being used. And if the commission and the council sees fit that they should be improved or the stairs should be put back in, then we go ahead with that. And I think it should go back to the Parks Commission. If you want to give me direction to put that on my agenda for the next meeting, we can discuss that. and we can look at the ordinances, or the ordinance that we have in place for these right-of-ways and go from there.
Let me just make a comment to that, TJ. If there was a stairs in there, and the owners, I think, are okay with upgrade or improving it or keeping the condition, correct? I mean, without a change. So would that be a difference from improving it?
I think no matter what improvements we make on these right-of-ways, the city has to be supervising it and doing the work. Because we don't want to get into other right-of-ways where things pop up because we're setting a precedent of letting property owners manage or put in stairs themselves, if that makes sense.
Maybe instead of improvement, we should be saying restoring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would support, TJ, that you put that on the commission agenda.
I can do that. Do we need a motion, or is it just a consensus?
A motion would be good.
Yeah.
I so move that we put on the commission agenda for Parks and Recreation, restoring the right-of-way over on, well, the whole ordinance on what we can do to right-of-ways.
I'll second it.
Can I back up a little bit? Sure. When?
The next commission meeting?
To just discuss are we gonna let the commission talk about it and talk about it in the budget for next year? We're running a little short on money for this year.
I guess I wasn't telling what they needed to do, but I thought they would start talking about the ordinance, get the ordinance changed, then we can talk about which right-of-ways and
Right.
what, but I'm open.
June 23rd.
Okay, so do we have a motion and a second here? Yes. And I guess, TJ, part of that conversation should be, what should we allow these X's to be used for?
If I could just chime in quick, I don't really think it's an ordinance issue. We've talked about it for a long time. I mean, it's more of an enforcement issue and a budget issue. At some point, the parks or the council need to address, well, you can't do it all in 1 year, there's too many of them, but you need to locate the ones that we think there's public purpose for and improve them as you see fit and mark them so people know where they're at, and the ones that nobody wants or needs, get rid of. But that's the ordinance isn't going to tell you anything. It's more of a, you got to do it one by one. Have meetings like that where the public shows up and says, hey, this really is used, there were stairs. Whether the stairs were there or not doesn't really matter. Clearly it was used, it sounds like, according to all that, neighborhood testimony. That must be one you should keep and maybe put some money into to make it usable again and mark it so we know where it's at, so there's not title problems with, that's not an ordinance issue. It's giving a budget to, or a goal of fixing two of these a year or whatever it is. And then cataloging them and deciding which ones to keep and which ones to, I agree. If you're going to keep it, we should know where it's at. When I say we, the public, well, first city staff, but also the neighbors, so that there's no disputes anymore. And then it's obvious when people try to do things there, it's marked, it's surveyed, this won't happen again.
Brad, I got to question you a little bit though, but does the city actually own that property?
It's dedicated to the public, meaning he's totally right. If you are going to keep it, that is a city project and then city dollars and city discretion as to what kind of stairs, and it's a city expenditure for the public. Yeah.
Seems odd, but it is, huh?
Oh no, that's what all of them are for, and that's why the ones that are not used and it looks like private property, that creates problems because it's publicly owned, but it's not used that way, and that causes confusion and conflict. So it takes time and money, but it's not really an ordinance thing. It's direct staff and first staff time, and then eventually budget, because it's not free to get these marked, and some might need stairs, some might need just simply signage and pins that are obvious so we know where it's at. Everyone might differ in what you want to do with it. Some would need improvements, some maybe are fine the way they are because they're flat. I don't know. I mean, you'd have to do it one by one.
Okay, I was just under the impression that the city did not own them. We're just stewards of them. We have to carry it, but the ownership isn't in the city.
It is not privately owned, if that's what you're trying to confirm. So it's not private ownership. It's dedicated to public, meaning You know, there's lots 13 on one side and 14 on the other, and there's a strip in between that's not on lot 13 or 14. It's right on the plat. It shows public ownership. Problem is often they're in the woods or in the bluff area and nobody knows where they're at.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, well, we have a motion and a second here, right? Yep. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I guess June 23rd, Park and Rec, Park and Rec will have a meeting. Okay. Next, we've got the mayor and council members' report. First, we have approval of donations. We got several donations here this month. We got 2 donations from Mike and Kelly Hegland, one $5,000 to the police department and one $5,000 to the fire department. Very generous, and we thank you, Mike and Kelly. Second or third, we got Cross Lakes Firefighters Relief Association, $2,593. Is that, oh yeah, to the fire department for purchase of ballistic helmets. Next, we've got from the American Legion, $2,000 to the police department for the purchase of less lethal weapons. And lastly, we've got from the Pell Foundation, $659.08 for the dog park. So we need a motion to accept those donations.
So moved.
First, can I ask you a question? Is that the, Chip isn't here, is he?
No.
Is there someone that can speak on behalf of the fire? Well, Mike, maybe. Because I see on it, on the bills, it says hard hat vet helmet. Is that what that is?
That's what those are, yes.
That's what it is. Okay, that answers my question. Then I'll make a motion, we approve them.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have invoices from High Tech. And I have not really had a chance to go through these. E2A for the soffit wood restain. That was probably one of the last ones we approved for $6,570. Are these going to all be approved in one motion, individually? Okay.
They're all considered change orders or things that were different than what the original budget was, so they should be all separate.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve that one?
I so move.
I'll second.
Second. Any other discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next one, 2B, kitchen cabinets in the amount of $15,247.
I'll move, we approve it.
Okay, motion to approve.
I second.
Second by Andrews. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. C, we've got the perimeter walls and replace in the amount of $135,979. And that was part of the mold issues that we had back on the original of the construction. Mike, did you check what the estimates were? And I mean,
113.
Yes, and they're listed on item E2 of your document.
It was 113,000.
Yeah.
and it went to 135. And did we get any explanation of that, or just ran into more, huh?
More reports.
Right here.
Okay, well, I guess it's a legitimate bill, a little higher than what we had thought, but do we have a motion to approve?
I so move.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next one, we have one, what's that one?
113.
Vapor barrier in the attic. 113, and that was originally estimated at 98.
That's correct.
What do you think Andy did? Did he forget to put the Gordian markup on it or something, or?
Well, no, this would have been what it took to get it done. For the items we're talking about, the preliminary budget estimate in total was 372.6. For the items that they actually fixed, were 338.244. So there's some variances. And remember, we didn't do anything with the concrete slab moisture issue. So you're over on some of them, some you're under.
Overall, we're under what they budgeted, I guess.
For that section.
Yeah. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion to approve the 113,344.12 for the attic vapor barrier and venting.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, E is mold mitigation in the amount of $93.52.
Mr. Mayor, I was wondering on this one, the description isn't what really happened, because on their detailed documents, it says they were doing air sampling. On the last page, air monitoring, air sampling. And I do believe that's what Chip wanted to have done. The question that I have is, so what are the results? Did anybody get results?
I had the same question as who received it.
Yeah, where did it go?
Did you receive any results?
No, I did not.
And this is after the project was done? Is that when they did the sampling or before?
Is there a date on here?
I've been looking for one.
May 11th? Oh, well, that's when they ran the, I don't know.
Well, I suppose we could pull this one until we get the results and make sure they're good, huh? If you want to.
That's what I do.
I would agree.
Okay, so I suppose the first, did somebody make a motion on that?
So I'll make a motion that we hold up paying this until we get results.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, all in favor. E2F. Attic draft stops. Oh, the garage dehumidification. Yeah, that seems like it was higher than what they said too.
Well, it was 17,383. It's a little more. Still higher.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the reference change order 79439.15.
I second it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The mechanical room water piping in the amount of $1664. It's just, it's every one of them.
Do we know why that was moved or had to be moved?
It wasn't moved. I think it was put in for a future water line if they needed it, I believe. So it's not even really being used, but we decided to do it.
Was that the
That's
other garage where we put in the water?
That was for the humidification in another part of the building where they didn't have the piping in it yet. They put it in for future.
So we approved it preliminary.
I'll move we pay the
Got a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
$164.81.
I second.
Okay, any other questions on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. What is this last one, Mike? Is that the balance of the contract?
Yes.
So there was a couple emails about when Andy asked for balance of it, the sign is not complete. Did he say anything about that?
We're talking about the fire hall here?
Okay, that's right. He put in for the city hall too.
Yep.
Okay. Motion to approve final payment?
Is there any reason, Brad, that we should hold any portion of it that you could think of?
No.
Okay.
The punch list clear?
As far as I know, yes.
I guess there was one email that came out from Tim Gooden this afternoon, final painting. It's gonna be done Thursday and Friday this week.
Correct, and there's another quote for just that work.
Oh,
That's for the ambulance garage, moisture issues, and that's gonna be a direct bill through High Tech. And that's on your item E2 on the first page. It's about $54.48. That's what they're projecting for that.
So it's got nothing to do with the contract? No. Okay, so we have a motion in the second. What do you
So
got?
move that we pay application number 10 from High Tech in the amount of $41,519.63.
Second.
Got a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Now we've got a proposal for the drinking fountain. A two-tier drinking fountain for out in front. And I guess we have to do that, right? For ADA or something, we have to do a hard pipe drinking fountain. $4,800.
I thought, where's Ted? Didn't you get a kind of a little different lower quote from local?
All I did is I got just the machine not installed.
Okay,
My quote was for just the machine not installed. This is for everything.
this is all of it.
That's what it appears to me.
Do we know where this is going to go?
They had a site selected, but it might be infringe on the accessibility of the hallway. And I have another spot that I'd like to review with them where the plumbing is actually right below in the basement and it's open for everybody to work on, so.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Do we want to table it until we get the final location and final price, or do we want to just go ahead?
I believe that everything will be fine with the new location. It'll be easy enough for them to get a hold of and do, so.
Why don't we put this to bed and just approve it? I'll make a motion, we approve the drinking fountain up to $4,800.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Okay, next, there's a note on here, update from mayor on meeting with county on Monday, June 7th. And I think what I would like to do with that is combine that with the public safety meeting minutes. So do we want to put that off until public safety later, or should we address it all now? Any preference?
You put it off.
Let's just hold off on that, because there's a couple of people in here that I'd like to be part of that conversation. So I'll close the mayor's. Mike, I'll turn it over to you, city administrator report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Got a short report tonight, which is nice. My update on the respectful workplace policy. If you remember earlier in the year, when we were talking about the respectful workplace issues, we do have a policy. Our employee manual says who it applies to and so forth. What it didn't do is it didn't do a very good job of communicating that to the people to which it applied. So council direction at that time was to go ahead and distribute that to the respective people that it applied to on the commissions, whether they're staff or not. And we changed it a little bit. Remember, we came back to the council with a new policy that was more current, updated in compliance with the league recommendations. So we did that. We sent out 83 copies for folks to sign and return. And because the council's position at that point was, you know, let's get this out there, have people say, yep, I understand it, and sign off as such. We have 19 pending replies at this point. So everyone knows that it exists. So it's basically a formality at this point to get the signatures, because there should be no excuse at this point for the folks that it's been distributed to not know that it's out there. So we're still waiting for some of those replies to come in. All right, any questions?
How many
How many?
have not returned?
19.
Oh,
That's about 23%.
okay, quite a few. Reminder time.
Yep, Okay, update on the American Rescue Plan Act funds. The League of Minnesota Cities put out a seminar. Now, this is the additional money. It's not the CARES Act money. There's different strings attached to it. Cross Lake is considered what's a non-entitlement city, meaning our population is below $50,000. So our money comes from the Minnesota Management and Budget Office. Their rules are just a little bit different than getting it direct from the U.S. Treasury. So we tried to sit through a presentation on this past Friday on that. And what's come of that is just a basic process on how you get your money or how you report what you spent once the money does come in. There's been a lot of confusion on what can I spend it on and how do I document that I did that. One of the requirements that's still pending right now is the amount of funding that you receive has to be less than 75% of your budget. We already know that the money we're eligible for is less than 75% of our budget. That'll be certified. We'll go ahead and report on that certification when the website's up and running to do so. In speaking with Gary Carlson, he's with the League of Minnesota Cities that watches all of these things. The amount that we're entitled to receive, or our award, is today, as we know it today, is $105.79 per population as per the 2019 census. Now, the reason they didn't use the 2020 census is because the data is not final yet. That number is 2,354 population, which at this point is $249,029.66. So we'll get half of that soon when this is up and going. One of the questions that came up through that seminar is Minnesota Management and Budget. Are they going to request another resolution for us saying, yes, we want the funds? They're working out the wording with that. And as soon as we have that, we'll bring that back to you, okay? So that's where that is at. There's a new guide that is out with that, and it came out on June 10th. If you like a copy of it, it answers a lot of the commonly asked questions like, do I qualify? Things like that. One of the things that came up through this is there was some concern that if you're adjacent to a township, they may receive funds but not have a place to put them. So they'll be working with your townships, be working with your local county. If there's other funds available, maybe you can partner with projects that make sense that are eligible under this. So we'll be looking at that, which leads right into item 3. One thing that's been in the back of all of our minds is where are we at with the local option sales tax? So the legislature didn't pass the tax bill yet. They've been working on it for a while. I did speak with Gary Carlson about this item too. And as it stands today, as late as this morning, our request is not in the House version of the bill. He was not real confident that it would make it through the legislature this time. It's in the Senate version, but not the House. And so I did send some correspondence to both Senator Ruud and Representative Dale Lueck saying, look, when our bill comes up, is there any way you can ask for that amendment to be made at that time when you're voting on the bill? Because now that the bill is in for voting, that's really our only hope at this point. So we weren't hopeful that it would pass this time. So that's why item 2 that I talked about becomes more important, because maybe we can replace some of those funding sources with that money if it falls into those projects. So there'll be more to come on that as we get further definition on that. The last item I have here that's not on your list is, we're getting into budget time. I've had some questions on it. I've provided you some information on where we're at with things. Now, some of you have asked questions. I've responded to those that have done so, and so you've all been copied on all of that. One of the questions that we're waiting for is, where are our tax collections coming in? Well, Tuesday of last week, which would have been June 8th, I did talk with my sources at the county, and we got a little over $2.2 million in the collections through roughly May 20th. Now, we've received, I got the confirmation Friday, late Friday. Actually, it was a deposit slip that went into our money market fund. We got our $1,558,721.20. Now we'll get the final payment on that for the collections through June 30th, on July 2nd. So there'll be another payment coming. It will be a little more than 30% of what they've already collected. The good news is our collections are spot on. We don't have much to speak of for delinquents. I would expect our second half collections to be less. The reason being is we've seen a lot of property transfers, and when property transfers, generally the taxes are paid in full at that point. So I feel pretty good that our collections are on, people are paying their taxes, and we don't need to worry too much about that. We'll get the details on that to finalize where all that goes on July 2nd. So that brings me to what's not on here is with the budget, some of you have asked questions, some of you haven't. Some of you hadn't really had a time to take a look at it. So what I'm thinking is to finalize, we've got some other projects we're talking about tonight, whether it's the crosswalks or the 66 sewer extension project. What I would suggest is we set up a budget meeting in July to just talk about how we're going to get through the rest of this year. We can use the meeting at that time to, plan out the rest of the budget cycle going into the next year. So that's my suggestion. If I look further down on the agenda, we do have a meeting on Wednesday, July 22nd. We're already coming here. If you wanted to do something prior to that, to refine, I'm sorry, the 21st. I misspoke. From 5 to 7. That gets to be kind of a long day for you. So we could have something in that July time frame. We can look at half a year at that point, and we could set out a doodle poll to see what works for the council.
How long do you anticipate that meeting being, Mike?
That depends on how many questions I get ahead of time. If I get no questions ahead of time, it could be a very long meeting. If I get a lot of questions ahead of time, we can get through material fairly quick. That's really up to you.
We just plan an hour?
Just do it at 4 o'clock, and that's what we have.
All right.
On the 21st?
Sure.
4 o'clock on the 21st?
I did get a list of questions from Councilmember Bowles, so thank you for that. The responses are all in all of your emails. One thing you'll notice in your council packet is, if you remember last year when we did the estimated budget for the fire hall, we kept track of that in a separate fund, Fund 401, so we could see where we were doing everything. So we made a paper transfer from the general fund to that fund to show that that's where that activity was accounted for. I did the same thing in your May records. So when you see a big number that says, where did $600,000 go from the general fund to the Fund 401, we're running all the associated costs for the fire hall and the wrap up of the city hall in there. So we need to move that extra money in there too. If you go back to item E2 under the mayor's report, that'll approximate roughly $2 million when you're all done. There's still some things pending on that. You've got the ambulance garage moisture issues that we talked about earlier. And then we're still waiting for the personnel lockers. There's some window shades, the AV equipment, the drinking fountain. They have the same issue that we do here. And then just some miscellaneous things they'll need, to finish that off. Okay?
So I had a comment that I said to Mike about this when we went a few weeks ago and talked about budget where the departments can quit spending, and some projects that we didn't do. We ended up with $500,000 to $600,000. My advice is to take that, and that goes back in the general fund to reimburse the city for the expenses for the fire hall. So we don't have to worry about looking for stuff to spend it on, because that's a place right there.
Well, the whole idea was reallocating budget funds.
Yeah, but we drained our bank account.
I mean, there are a couple options you can do with that. One was, the whole purpose of that exercise from June 2nd was to try to take, and as I explained at that time, was to identify what portion of our current year budget, meaning the road projects, we were going to levy for. We've taken the position over the last several years that we want to try to keep our levy as low as possible. And to do that, we have to levy some money for road projects so we can manage our debt payments in the future. And so the projects that we were planning to do, that we delayed, were made up of some levy, some new debt, and some existing cash. And so when we take the levy component from that, we went back and we estimated what was the impact of that on our current budget. Because if we budget in that fashion and we try to minimize our levy and we don't do a project we levied for, we're generating cash that we don't have a place to put. And so Mr. Schrupp's suggestion was to say, okay, let's monitor that and use that to offset the costs of the fire hall. And that's really for you folks to decide.
Okay, how much of the road project did we levy for? I thought that was all going to be bonded for. I know previously, like the Perkins was 98,000 that we levied for, but the rest of it that we took out, that we did not do this year, was not levied for, was it? I thought we were bonding for that.
No, and if you go back to the budget document,
I didn't bring the budget document. Can we get the budget at the July meeting so that we have time to review it before this 4 o'clock meeting on July 21st?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
We'll try to do that. There's a lot that happens that week to close out the month and get that for you, but we'll have it to you before the meeting.
I'd recommend a motion to have a July 21 meeting too. Instead of just, I could see consensus, but I'd recommend a motion.
Well,
thank you.
I'll make a motion to have a budget meeting for 2022 on July 21st at 4 o'clock, ending at 5.
So I'm not understanding, you said 2022. Are we talking about 2021 budget reallocation?
It'll be the 2021 budget review.
We're not starting on 22.
We'll start on it. We'll get some direction at that meeting, but the purpose of the
I
meeting.
think we better finish up our 2021 reallocation budget.
I'm throwing out there is just my input. You know, I think just putting the money back in the bank since we had it, and then we don't have to worry about looking for places to spend it, because essentially I think we already spent that money.
So are you talking about that the road project we didn't do, that we have that money, but we don't, because we didn't budget, but we didn't bond for it?
Okay, let's back up. When we did the road project, we said, how are we going to pay for the road project? The whole goal was to try to keep the debt load to a minimum and any new levy associated with it to a minimum. So we built in a component of cash and debt for the project. A component of it. And so that's what we talked about back on June 2nd, and we estimated what those amounts were based on the costs of what we didn't do. And so because we levied those funds for projects we ultimately did not do, we can't call the county and say, stop sending us tax money. They're still going to collect it. And so what we're suggesting is, well, let's refine what that estimate is so we can identify it based on the changes we're making, and then say, okay, we're still going to get those funds. Let's use them to replace the items as we discussed earlier on item E2 under the mayor's report.
So you're talking special assessments that you're talking about now? Or
no, I'm talking...
The funds, I'm not quite understanding the funds for the road project that we levied for.
Okay, again, when we did the road project, we had about $1 million, we'll just round numbers, we'll call it about $1.4 million of road projects.
That we planned.
That we planned to do. And that's what we talked about on June 2nd. We spent a lot of time on that. And so what we did is we said we had the The debt portion of that was about $900,000, okay? The levy portion was about 480. We were gonna use a combination of current year levy and new debt to pay for the project. Well, we didn't do the projects. We're not going to issue the debt, but we're still going to get the levy dollars because we levied for it. That was our plan. We didn't do what we planned to do. We delayed it. We're still going to get the money in the levy, and so what we're suggesting is let that flow through the current year. Let's refine what that number is, because we did make some changes. We decided to do some engineering for the road projects. We decided to do some other work also. So let's look at everything, not just a few grains of sand in there.
Okay, so, but the engineering that we're expending this year should come out of that 480,000 then?
That's correct. Yep. And so you can decide to let those dollars flow through and reassess it when we get new project costs, when Phil comes up with those. And we have an idea of what that's going to look like. You know, we've got some hearings coming up that are coming further down in the agenda. When budget times comes, we can take a look at that and say, do we want to use that to replenish overages for the fire hall, or do we want to spend it?
Something else.
You know, that's the decision you'll have to make at that time. Okay?
So you'll just lay that out for the 21st, so we spend a little more time.
Just like we did on the 2nd. We'll have a new estimate for that based on these changes. Okay?
I don't think you finished your motion and vote though on the.
I think you're right.
We still.
Made a motion, there was no second.
Right.
So the request was to have a motion for the meeting on the 21st.
At 4 to 5 p.m. to talk budgets on
Yep.
2021, 2022.
And I second it.
Okay, motion second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, so thank you. So when you do have concerns on this, make sure you get them to me and I'll do my best to turn them around quickly. Okay, so we can maximize our time at that meeting.
Thank you, Mike.
That's all I have unless you have questions.
Thank you. Okay, next, planning and zoning. John is not here.
I can take that for him.
Okay.
Yeah, the first one is the final plat approval for Sundance Ridge Condominiums, Common Interest Community. My understanding is there were no issues with that. It was unanimous at the Planning and Zoning Commission, so the recommendation is to approve it as is.
That's correct. And this is what's been done with the other buildings. They're built to be rentals, and then when they plat them, then they sell. And then they still rent it. It's kind of an interesting.
And they are metered as a commercial building too.
Yeah.
We meter their water use for the sewer.
So I move that we approve.
I second.
Motion and second. Any other discussion on it? I guess the only question I have, is that part of the new part across the street, or is it just the old?
This is the original. Okay, it's the original. The last building of the original.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I guess Phil Martin, you're up, huh?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, at our joint meeting, you requested I put together kind of a summary of where we're at and where we need to go under the concept of advancing the CSAH 66 sanitary sewer and stormwater extension. As you know, at the last meeting that we had a week ago, I presented Ted with the final plans and specifications, so technically you're at a point where you could seek bids for construction, but there are some remaining items that we need to, if you decide to go that route, we need to get, and that's, you know, as we've discussed, some easements that we want to talk about with some sanitary sewer connections, easements for the stormwater quality ponds. Obviously, there's some stuff internally with how you're going to go about paying for the portions that we've estimated the county will pay for, the Bowser grant will pay for, and there will be remaining. And probably the biggest thing is coming to some closer point on what the city's willing to support in terms of assessment associated with the sanitary sewer improvements that we've been working on for over 3 years. So I guess I've laid this out. I think it's fairly detailed and thorough, so I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
You don't have any public meetings scheduled for this?
No. no, we have to do an improvement hearing.
The next two items under that, B and C, are scheduling meetings.
But those are road projects.
Those are for the road, though. This is for CASA 66.
On this page, he's got some timelines.
Yeah, on the second page, I kind of laid something out in terms of how I thought if you were interested in getting closer to that point of, you know, actually going and getting construction market numbers, what I would recommend. And you can see that your first opportunity improvement hearing is, I think in September 2021 is when you would have the improvement hearing. Before that, I think we would send out information as updates to the residents along there. Just to, you know, we went into a pattern of hold after our meeting in, I think it was January of 2020. So it would be probably advisable to update everybody that this is what's coming down the pipe, and an improvement hearing in September, and maybe going or not, I guess.
So let me ask you a question. To get this thing going, I think we need to say yes to a project, right? Number one.
I think
you don't have a project from us right now, other than engineering.
Correct. We have a set of plans. I think you have to,
right.
As I've pointed out, I think you need to get easements in order, and you need to the main thing, I guess, is the easements. But it's kind of a chicken and egg thing. If you decide on later in this year that you want to go forward, but you haven't done the other stuff, you might want to go forward and don't have the easements in place that you need. So,
can someone remind me, do we have an assessment policy?
We do have an assessment policy.
So we're all set on that. Okay, thank you.
So on the assessment policy, just to cover that quickly, what we did in that improvement hearing was we did a mock assessment, and that mock assessment was essentially at the middle of the appraised benefit to the properties dependent upon zoning. What we have had is a lot of discussion at Public Works and City Council levels about how could that be tweaked, how should it be tweaked. And I think that's the point that needs to be figured out, is where as a council can you support moving forward with an assessment on this or not? Because I think that is one of your funding streams for paying for this improvement.
I thought at the Public Works meeting we discussed the assessment policy, and it was 5 and 7, and we went down the middle of the road with 6 because we felt like everybody should be assessed the same assessment.
And we've had discussions.
Across the road.
Yeah,
that was never approved. I was thinking
we haven't updated an improvement hearing and presented that information to the public, but it's all been discussed. We've discussed kind of a formula for when you would have to connect based on the age of your septic system, all those things. So yeah, we've had a lot of great discussion, but I don't think we've presented what our new thoughts are to.
So Public Works didn't present it to the City Council for approval? Because I remember discussing that if they just had put in a septic system, that we would allow them.
And I think you're right on
years.
We need to come to a point where that the council can support what we'll go to the public with, so we can have an improvement hearing.
So can we look at your schedule where you've talked about acquisition for easements, and you've got June to December. Isn't December kind of late if you're going to get bids in?
Well,
can't you shorten that up to June to?
Can you guarantee me everyone will agree?
That what?
Will you agree? Can you guarantee me everybody will agree?
No, but is it number one, because that's the first thing we have to
do? It's the first thing that I think you need to do, and my point is I think you start immediately and you get them all before December.
But I think I've heard you say in the past, we really don't have to commit until we get a bid on this thing. If we get a bid that's twice what you said it would be, we aren't doing it.
So
we'll be spending money up until then.
Right. That's the big commitment when you bid it and decide yay or nay. Because then, I mean, at our estimated cost, you're talking $1.8 million on a project, if it comes in at our estimate. But to get to that point of either pulling the pin or not on a project, there's other things that need to be done. And again, it's always what has happened is we've sat here and said, well, we're not sure when we're going to do this. We're not sure when we're going to do this. Is there local option sales tax? when are we ready to go forward? And I guess my point is you need to get these easements squared away, whether that's 2022, 2023, 2024, you need to get it squared away so that when you're ready to go, you can go. And I'm encouraging you to go forward and negotiate the easements and get that all taken care of,
It looks
tied
like
up.
item 1 through 4 or 5 we should turn you loose on.
Us and the city. I mean, there's stuff that the city has to do. You all have to do some
I would
lifting
make
here.
a motion that we move forward with items 1 through 5 to get the thing going.
I'll second that, or we're gonna be late.
Yep. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
So Phil, just one follow-up question to that. Because this was not a petition project, on the assessment side, we'll still need a 4/5 vote.
Correct. We need the support of 4 out of 5 council people if you're going to go actually seek bids for construction.
Down the road, December.
Yep.
But just to kind of echo what Phil said, I don't fully trust that you're going to agree on a assessment policy and the project's going to happen like on this timeline, but I do trust it's going to happen in the next 5-10 years. So I would get the easements even if you're not sure it's going to happen, because we lose, there's too much leverage for landowners when we need an easement like in a month.
Yeah.
It stinks having to pay for an easement when you might not have assessment dollars or funding sources to pay for the easement. That's the other side of the coin. But if you think you're going to do it eventually, it sure is a lot easier on staff to have more time to negotiate easements, even if the project might not happen for a couple of years. And that logic applies to any project.
So
It's
you
just,
could start off in September, October, you're gonna say we aren't gonna.
you've already, the motion I heard says we can start going.
You could
Yeah.
tell us then that I'm having trouble getting easements.
Correct. And that's a great point.
It's not gonna happen
we're,
next year.
we're hopeful that we think we have a really good reason why we're asking property owners for an easement. It actually saves them money in the future when they connect, so they're not restoring the trail and things like that. So optimistically, I'm hopeful everyone sees our way, and it's just a matter of us taking care of the paperwork for them. If we run into that situation where we just can't make something work, then we need time to go through a process so that when the contractor shows up, they can go and they're not hitting us for delay costs.
Is there any easement money, acquisition money put into your budget numbers here?
No.
Those are dollars we would have to float. And once we know what those are, you know, Phil's going to be giving me a call and say, Mike, I need a reimbursement resolution from your council so we can reimburse ourselves for those land acquisition costs with bond proceeds if we need to.
And just to remind, on a lot of the property owners, we're asking for a temporary construction easement so we can put their service in the spot, put it in a location that when they hook up in the future, their cost is reduced. You know, I think some of the negotiation, the talking about getting the easement with the log church and Simonson, that's an easement, and you know, I think in perpetuity for that storm pond.
Can we get what the Public Works discussed, and we were kind of in agreement at that point when we got to the assessment of 6,000, and then when people were going to, property owners were going to have to connect, because there was a time frame for they had to connect within so many years, and I don't know that magic number if it was 7, 10. I can't remember, but could we get that from Public Works? To me, I think everyone, I was on Public Works then, and I'm thinking everyone was kind of in an agreement of that whole assessment.
And I think that's where we're at, is that there is work by the council and the Public Works to, yes, you know, say we've talked about this, we've heard the residents' concerns, this is what we think is the spot. Because ultimately, we're going to have to go back and do an improvement hearing again. We're going to have to explain this to the residents. We're going to have to explain what our policy is and where we came to and how it differs from where we're at before, if it does differ, which in our discussions, it did change from what we originally said.
And I see the public hearing September, so we don't have a whole lot of time to get that assessment.
Well, I'm very confident that we could supplement, update that improvement hearing, but honestly, some of the information that we put in there will be the results of discussion and the cues that the council and Public Works give us. I mean, if this goes crazy back and forth for the next 2 months, then September looks terrible. If we're at that spot where we're kind of already talking about, we got close to, then September's easy to get the information out.
To me, before we were pretty close, but the problem now is board and council have all changed, and I don't know what their ideas are.
That's why I think over the next 2 months we'll have to find time to give us input on that.
I think the quicker we get that in front of us, the quicker we can establish what we want for an assessment on that sewer project.
I'll dig up the minutes from and get them to you as soon as we can.
Great.
Bill has all sorts of Excel spreadsheets.
And I can provide just a quick bullet summary of where we got. So
that'd be great, because I think the quicker we act on it, the better.
So do we have a motion to move you forward on the first 5 items?
And it's approved.
We did.
That's already done?
Yeah, that's done.
Okay.
Next, we're setting some dates for the public information for the 2022 road project and for the improvement preliminary assessment hearing. There's 2 suggested dates there.
I'll make a motion that we set the date for the public information meeting for the 2022 road project for Wednesday, July 21st, 2021 from 5 to 7.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Somebody have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we set the road improvement preliminary assessment hearing for Wednesday, August 25th, 2021 from 5 to 7.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you, Council.
Good. Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Phil. Okay, public safety. June 7th, I guess, I had a meeting. Actually, Cindy Bigato and I had a meeting with Tim Bray and Bill Brecken. Purpose of the meeting was to talk about crosswalks, striping the streets, and getting a little cooperation out of the county. Correct? Ted had gone ahead and striped the county roads that really should be paid by the county. But because of the traffic and the pedestrian traffic and whatever, we went ahead and did it. So through that meeting, we had a lot of discussion, and I guess, Bob, you and Kevin, both of you, we talked about crosswalks, painting. We still haven't gotten an answer about more painting on the pedestrian crosswalks. But I kind of would like Bob to come up and do a little presentation on some solar light controlled crosswalks. Hopefully you're prepared for that, and I'm not dropping a bomb on you.
We're expecting a PowerPoint.
I can help you out if you want. But
I'm Bob Heelis. I am co-chair of the Public Safety Committee, along with Kevin Sedovy. And at the last special council meeting, the Public Safety Committee was asked to do some further research on the flashing type crosswalk lights. So we got some information. Kevin has a contact with MnDOT, and the system that we thought would work best has the light bar on it. It's RRFB. The flashing lights go back and forth. The cost per intersection for that was $5,212. That's without installation and without poles. We compared that, that's with traffic calm. We compared that to TAPCO. TAPCO system, this price is for 2 intersections with TAPCO, but it was $19,778. So if you double the one with traffic calm, you're at $10,400.
Just a question on that. Did that
Yep.
include the poles and everything, or are you going to get into that?
I'm getting there.
Okay, sorry.
TAPCO included the poles. Traffic calm was just the system without poles, without installation. Neither of these had installation. So then we got a bid from Traffic Calm for the 4.5-inch poles, just like the other system. That came to $3,212. Now that's for 6 poles because we expanded from 2 intersections to 3 intersections. We're looking at County Road 3 and 66, Swan Drive and 66, and Daggett Pine Road in 66. So with the 3 systems, it would be a little over 15,000, 5,212 each, and the 4.5-inch poles, 6 of them would be 3,200. But we discussed going with possibly a Telspar 2-inch square pole, which you see on many of the street signs the county puts up with whatever road it is. That's what they use. It's galvanized. Probably a lot less expensive, and I'm sure they probably have a lot of that material in stock.
So to your knowledge, Bob, both of these are approved by the MnDOT and the county.
Well, yeah, Tim Bray sent you a email, and the information we got came from Kevin Kosobud. He is a project development engineer, Minnesota Department of Transportation, Office of Construction and Innovative Contracting. So those are 2 systems that were approved.
Okay, let's open it up to questions from the council.
I was in favor of moving forward with what you're saying and making sure that the crosswalks meet the standards. And I did not stop and look at Daggett Pine. I don't know if that would address the others do.
These are all solar activated crosswalks.
Solar activated, push button, comes with all the batteries. They radio transmit to each other, so when somebody pushes a button on the one side of the street, it talks to the other one, so both signs are flashing in both directions.
So we would need and want the county's blessing to put them up, but in the event the county comes through and reconstructs the road, these are easily moved to Town Square or to any other location we'd want to put them.
Right, there's limited hardwiring as far as I understand.
Yeah, they're portable, relatively.
So are all the curbs done on these 3 spots though? So we don't have to do that.
2 of them are ADA compliant. I don't know about the 3rd one.
Yeah, they all.
I believe they all are.
So is the county taking any responsibility on funding for crosswalks? No?
You know, we're kind of still in negotiation with that, who would maintain, who would help. I think we'd look at the county for support in putting the poles in at least. They may have a crew that may assist in putting the signs up.
Did Tim Bray ever reply to you after I sent him all that information?
No.
His concern was this cost was much less than what he was used to, and he wanted to make sure it was state approved, which it is. I sent him that information, and I guess I thought he would reply to you or me or...
Yeah, I haven't heard anything.
Okay.
But we were kind of kicking around $50,000 a crosswalk, and now we're looking at $7,500 a crosswalk. You know.
That's with the poles. If you went with the Telspar, the square one, it would be quite a bit less, I think. But
it's still. So I want to blurt out what the Public Safety Committee wants to do, but I think I'd best let you tell us what the Public Safety Committee wants us to do.
Well, the recommendation was that recommended the City Council the purchase of the Traffic Calm RRFB system at $5,212 per unit, plus posts, and install not to exceed $20,000. So when we add that all up, plus the posts, we are just shy of $20,000. So there's nothing left for installation now, unless people grab shovels on the weekend or
Mr. Mayor, the speed signs, which are solar powered that are up at the community center, Public Works installed those. We'd be very capable of installing this system. One thing I must counsel the council and the committee is 3 of these locations are in the Army Corps campground, and to drive a post in their campground or any of their property, you have to have their written permission. So that has to be achieved too also.
Corinne was part of the meetings too, and she seemed willing to help and receptive to it.
You just need it written on a piece of paper that
Yep.
she approves it, so.
Even if it's in the county right away.
And it's still their property. They own the road.
Okay, I think she could probably get that done.
So.
But I think it's an investment of the city of 20 grand. We got 3 intersections relatively covered. We feel pretty good about it. It takes at least 3 weeks to get them shipped, correct?
2 to 3 weeks on all the equipment except the poles, and to get the poles shipped free, which saves us over $900, that's about 6 weeks.
But we could go to a 2-inch.
If you went with the Telspar system, the 2-inch poles, I'm sure I don't know if the city has any of those in inventory or.
We don't have 2-inch in hand, but we could possibly get them out of M&R sign out of Fergus Falls.
Okay.
They usually have that size on hand.
Or the county possibly might have.
The county, I don't know if they've got 2-inch, but we could check.
But
What they do is they drive one post, and then there's a breakaway, and then the post that goes above, and then they're bolted together right at the ground level.
I'm assuming those are a lot less than $645 each.
Oh yes,
so,
significantly
yeah,
less.
Yeah.
They're not the prettiest, but they get the job done.
Well, these are, I don't know, they're galvanized. They look like they hold up fairly well compared to the U channel that rusts within a few weeks.
Yes.
And as far as payment for them, we did have a fine that somebody paid of $28,000 that we could apply to this to pay for it, so we don't have any budgeting issues. I think I would like to make a motion that we approve the purchase of the 3 units that you described and figure out the details in between now and when they're shipped.
The 3 units without the poles.
Yeah, I think we could search the poles out. We could get those.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to wait 6 weeks for them anyway, so we'll get them.
Right.
I second that.
Okay. Any other questions or discussions on it? Please.
I still think that the county should receive some correspondence saying we're going ahead with it and how much they would like to provide for funding.
And Marcia, we will do that before we order it. We'll get back together with them.
I mean, it's not going to stop the project, but I don't think they should just, okay, they're doing it, yay, and
No.
we should be more accountable to the taxpayers that.
The wheels of government in the county level move very slowly.
I know.
So
But
we'll have to
we shouldn't let the
operate
county
in
off
good faith.
without asking them for
Let them know.
contributing.
So, Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Are you indicating that the county is supportive of your placing the RRFBs in their right-of-way with your current crosswalk configuration?
No,
And
I
that they
guess
won't need anything to review and to approve that?
We do need you to give them something. That's right. And that should have been
Okay,
included.
so was there any discussion about the crosswalk, the ADA ramps? When you submitted this additional information to Tim and you found out these RRFBs and poles are stating?
No, you were out there with them. Well, you were out at
Correct.
Tess, but even the other ones, wasn't the consensus that the ramps are okay?
You have
Tim
to,
said
you have
it,
to admit,
The
my,
location is what he wanted to make sure, where we actually put them. They may move.
I think
2
his
feet this way.
concerns are he doesn't want to, his concern is he's supportive of increasing safety in the city. He wants to make sure by doing one thing, you don't jeopardize something else. Now, I just asked a question about the ADA ramps because I think to myself included, they look like they're ramps. Someone doesn't have to travel over a curb. I suspect they don't meet ADA standards of today. Now, I would want to make sure that the county says as much that you can put these lights up and you don't have to make improvements to those ramps to bring them current. That's what I'm saying is I hope there is that process because If
Well,
I think your number's light, honestly, for what you're budgeting, because I suspect you have to do some ADA improvements with this.
So
And I hope I'm wrong.
can't we get the county engineer to provide us with specs and approval?
Well, and I think it can be very quick. I just
Didn't they ask you to do that?
to put specs together.
Well, I think the county
Or
should have
have
to
you
do it.
directed us at this level to authorize you to do that?
Well, I was hoping the county engineer would be here so I could understand if we could do
Yeah,
it very
it's
simply
unfortunate that
with
he wasn't.
just some standard MnDOT plates and do an analysis. I mean, it sounds to me like your time frame is much shorter than what typically the county or any government would go at. So I just want to make sure that there is a step in there where the county's seen it and they okay it.
Otherwise, we could be funding a project that might have to get
So I
ripped
guess,
out.
Bob, we might be a little premature. I think we've got the support of the council. Maybe go back and just have to call a special meeting to authorize it when we get that approval. Sounds like that to me, huh?
Do you want to have Phil make that communication since?
Yeah.
I can communicate that you gave Tim the information.
Yes.
And you can say exactly which you want to go forward with. I think the question is just simply, can we install these in a location with the current crosswalk configuration for ADA, or do we have to show you that we meet it or what we're going to change to meet it? I mean, I think those are dollar-driven questions that you would want to know.
So could we make the motion to order or to approve the order of contingent on the county?
I would
Answering Phil's
think you
question.
can do that very quickly with email correspondence. Not slow you down, but I just think it's how you want to cover yourself.
No, I appreciate it. So we either table it or we make that part of the motion.
I would have Phil do all of that for us. That's what he's experienced at that, so send an email.
Yeah, I'm
On
happy to
behalf
drive
of-
to the question to get it comfortable.
Yeah.
Again, if this was not a county street, if this was your street, we wouldn't be asking any of these questions. But we have to work and live with the county for a long time, and we want them to share in all of our other stuff.
So do we table this motion, or do we make the motion go ahead contingent on you getting approval from the county to do it? And when you do that email and you get approval or not, that'll give us the green light to order the things. I mean, that's kind of what I'd like to see happen. Or we call a special meeting and do it at that time.
Why don't you let me run with it, and then I can tell you if you need to have a special meeting.
Well, but we need approval now.
Well,
I'm going to make a motion that we go ahead with the purchase.
Dave, so you're going to amend the motion that's already
amend the
on there?
motion. I'm just
Okay.
going to add in that we need to authorize Phil Martin and Bolton Mink to go to the county and make sure that what we're doing is acceptable to the county. Prior to the purchase.
okay.
Okay?
Is the only question where the ramps are now, the ADA ramps?
Not where they are, but if they're meeting the current ADA standards.
Okay, because I know some of those were just put in when the school was built, so.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll second that.
And John, do you want to adjust your second then?
I second, yes.
I guess I'd clarify, it's not to change the ramp locations, to make sure that they're
Kevin,
okay.
I want to hear what you're thinking.
We should vote.
Well,
I don't want to prolong the meeting, but Kevin said it'd be 15096 Wolf Trail. Bob and I head up this. So these ramps have to be changed just because we're putting lights up?
we don't know that.
I know, but I mean, I don't understand. Bill, maybe you can explain that to me.
Well, typically, if you make an improvement and you have out of compliance ADA, if this was just city, we could probably, depending on what our funding source, we can make a decision whether we wanted to meet ADA standards. However, because we're dealing within the county right away, county is the one that's ultimately going to say we can accept the ramps in the condition they are, or they should be upgraded to meet ADA.
Okay.
With these
So
lights and these RRFBs, you are inviting people to cross in this location, whether they're handicapped by wheelchair, sight, whatever.
So in the future, so we know, so we don't have these issues, because Tim's been in on all of these discussions in our emails, and I don't think we ever got a response back from him on the last one. How do we move this forward? And I talked about getting Ted involved in in our last meeting, so we don't go through this again, I guess, I mean, are you the point guy then, I guess, to run this pass? Is that gonna be our?
Should be included.
Okay,
Well,
all right.
Tim,
You should be included.
in our discussion, Tim said that, along with your grander plan that you're talking about doing, ADA improvements, Bald Eagle Trail by the Crafts and Cones is a major hotspot. And for you to have an RRFB there at some point in the future, you have to create a ramp. And the only, again, if the county says, as they are today, whether they're compliant or not, we're okay with this going in because we value the safety over anything, that's all we're looking for. That's all we're looking for.
And our committee discussed that, Bill, and because there wasn't a ramp there, it was the reason why we didn't choose that location
And I think that
at this
was,
point in time.
I think
All
that was,
we're trying to do is get something done, before the dead of the 4th of July, busy season.
I like your
Right.
style, Kevin.
Yep. I get it.
All right.
But we do need something in writing from the county, email, something.
I agree.
Saying.
One more question. Bob, are you gonna contact Corinne then and make sure we get that written notice that they talked about so we can drill a hole in there?
Contact who?
Corinne at the Army Corps.
Have Phil do that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
They have Phil do
Just
that.
so that we have that base covered. Or is Phil? I think.
Work with the Corps, we're asking. Get the blessing from the Corps too.
Was she in the meetings? I can.
I don't know.
I can reach out
She
to her
was
too.
not. She's over at the Army Corps at the campground.
Okay.
She's in charge of the park there.
I can give you contact info.
She was at the last special meeting when crosswalks were discussed.
I mean, we're dealing with a bigger body there, but I think she's willing to.
But I think that's just her signing on, not, no.
Let's see.
It will go to the top.
Yeah, even when we put the streetlights in, it had to go over her even then, at that time, to get permission to auger those posts in, so.
Okay, Shar, is that motion clear? Are you okay with it?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good. Okay, Chief Lee, I think you're up, huh?
Okay, a lot simpler than previous. What I'm asking for approval tonight is a resolution supporting a joint powers agreement with the state, 2 joint powers agreements with the state that allows us access to criminal justice data network information. The other thing is for your information regarding the fee structure. Over the past few years, I don't know when we were charged last for the state and having access to the information. They said that they're going to start charging us $50 a month again. So,
No back charges on it?
no. Yeah, I didn't say anything. So just need your permission with the resolution. Need a motion on that, and then a motion on the 2 joint powers agreements.
Is that 2 separate motions, Chief?
I think that's probably going to end up being 3 because it's 2 separate joint power agreements and a resolution. Correct? I don't know.
The first one you need is the joint powers agreement.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution approving the State of Minnesota Joint Powers Agreement with the City of Cross Lake on behalf of its police department.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Motion for the fee structure?
That's part of that one, isn't it?
I don't think, well, yeah, I don't know if we need a motion for the fee structure. That's just going to be what it is.
Isn't that part of that resolution? That's what it looked like to me.
You need one for the court data services subscriber amendment to the CJDN subscriber agreement.
Yeah, you missed one though.
I don't think that brings up the $50.
No, but this, you have to have this in order to.
Right. But there's three motions we gotta make. We need to make the motion for the State of Minnesota Joint Powers Agreement.
With the BCA.
With
Yep.
the BCA. So I'll make
And
that
then-
motion that we approve the State of Minnesota Joint Powers Agreement with the BCA.
I second that.
Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Now we'll do the court data services subscriber amendment to CJDN subscriber agreement, and that's a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, TJ's next, Park and Rec.
Good evening again. I will start with 4A. At the last special council meeting, we addressed this topic. I wanted to bring it back to this board because True Green was higher than we anticipated at that time after you guys made the motion. And as you see, Abra is the lowest there. I will say that our current conditions with the dry season, we're not probably going to put 2 apps on yet this year. It would probably be cut down to 1, if not 0 at some locations. So it would most likely be less than the 57.78 if we do go with Abra. I would say we could go with a do not exceed that if we want to go with that option, and then we just play it by ear how this fall goes. Because right now we're not going to control anything. There's no weeds growing as of now.
There's no grass either.
Yeah, so in the fall, we try to put on an application to kill those weeds. And then in the future budget talks, we could get some updated pricing for next year.
I make a motion, we just table this and wait and see what the conditions do. Get the grass growing. I mean, but there's nothing urgent about it. We can do it.
Can I just ask a question? We've already did one application at the community center.
For the community center,
you're not going to
correct.
do another one there anyway.
In the fall, you would want to, yes.
Yeah, if barring conditions.
Which it will. I mean, we're going to get rain. Things are going to come back, bounce back out of dormancy. It's just, do we want to make this decision now or later?
The advantage of doing it now is you've got a set price here. You don't have to renegotiate price later.
I do have to let these companies know. They've been kind of.
This one from Abra is for one app. You only need one application, and that
One
would be
application
this
more
fall.
for the community center, but we need to spray this facility, the cemetery. I mean, that's just for the community center that they applied one application to.
I made a motion to table it. I think the world would survive the way it is. So we'll see if we get a second on that. I just don't see any real critical issue to have to do that right away.
Would you control when they come? Or will you work out when they come? I mean, so they don't spray dead grass.
Well, right. Hopefully they wouldn't come when the grass is dormant. That really
They'll
wouldn't.
come if there's money to be made. I'm not knocking them, I'm just saying that.
We should have a second on that.
And we could tell them when to come. I mean, that could be up to the supervisors and when it gets to that point.
I'll second the motion so we can discuss it.
I can talk to Ted, and once things start getting out of dormancy, we can kind of play it by ear. And
But that included the cemetery, the public works here, and the community center.
correct. And the fire hall.
And the fire hall. The fire hall, to me, is the only thing that the sprinklers are working and the grass is growing at. Everything else.
Starting to come on the crab grass, but yeah.
Well, we're gonna need it here, I would think, if we're sprinkling here on the new stuff.
Yeah, but we don't need to spray the weeds because weeds aren't coming anyway. Nothing's coming. I guess I would like to approve the fall application at the community center and then budget for the other weed control next year if we think we need it. I mean, for our 2022 budget, but to budget for the second application at the community center.
I have the money in my budget to do that too.
This fall.
Yep.
Oh, you already do?
I have it in my budget, yep. Because
Okay.
what we have in the budget is to pay for the chemicals, and I haven't bought the chemicals because we haven't applied ourselves, so.
Mm-hmm.
Are there weeds at the cemetery?
There are.
And we approved a motion that you guys are gonna keep the cemetery looking spick and span this year.
Well, I think we should, I'd rather spend money on the sprinkler system there before we get the grass growing. I mean, I would.
But there's no well. I mean, the well we have is iron, and it would ruin the headstones.
It stains, when you use a garden hose, it stains the headstones down.
Yeah.
There's not any weeds out at the cemetery, I mean, growing, right? Or is there?
We hooked up and cleaned it up.
Yeah, so the cemetery is being taken care of.
Let's vote on my motion, let it die, and then you can do another one, huh? So we got a motion to table, seconded by Andrews. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All opposed?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, motion dies. Somebody else make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we do one application this fall at the community center and table action on all the other weed control on city property.
So one application for 1,300. There isn't a price tag affiliated with that, so.
No, it's 20.
First one was 1,300.
Each app is going to be the 1339. So
that one would be 1339.
Correct.
The second application at the community center.
I'll second it.
Okay. Now that motion was to do one application at the community center only this fall and table the rest of it till budget. Okay. All in favor with that?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
all right, item 4B, with the steady increase in right-of-way vacation applications and me getting phone calls from residents asking what's going on, trying to get some sort of transparency with the meetings. When they get the public notice, it's only about the public notice that's obviously going to be here at the council meeting. So rewind, when it goes in front of Public Works or the Parks Department, they're not notified of those applications. So to be transparent with all the public and the nearby property owners, I think it'd be a smart move to contact the nearby property owners from for these applications to be notified so they know what's going on, because our boards make recommendations to you guys, and to make a wise, considerate recommendation and an accurate one, I think we should have public input at all meetings.
I support that major. We had a number of residents who were just torqued that they had not been able to present at the commission meetings and didn't know things were happening and being discussed without them being notified. So it's more work for Shar and the city, but at least gets the people involved in the process earlier on and lets the commissions make hopefully more excellent decisions.
I support that too.
Is it legal to notify them, like if it goes to the park board and then it goes to the planning commission, not planning,
Public Works.
Public Works Commission, then the council, can we notify them of all three meetings in one letter?
It's definitely not illegal. I mean, it's just a matter of the cost and knowing the schedules, and it might slow down the hearing process, but it's totally doable.
It'd be a lot faster to notify them of all three meetings
At one time.
and
That's
going
what
out 3 notices. You're right.
Yeah.
Does it have to be 14 days in advance? Correct me if I'm wrong.
What's the property owners that are notified? Is it 350 feet?
No, it's based on it depends on they're all different, but it depends on the plat. So, and how close they are to like the one we just had, Barley. It's not about how close you are. If you're in a different plat, even if you're pretty close by, you wouldn't be noticed, at least according to state statute. But so it's not based on distance, it's based on what plat you're in. Because the plat, that's where we got the public property in the first place. If somebody platted Smith Acres and there's 10 lots in Smith Acres, that's who should be involved in that notice.
Oh, I see. Well, I think that
We
that's
could
a
do more
doable thing.
notices. It's just a timing thing to know all three schedules. And if you do it in one notice, it wouldn't cost more. It just would be more coordination to make sure you got the calendar straight, and it might slow down the hearing process just to make sure you get, but other than that problem, it's not more expensive.
If it can be done, I guess that's what I would like to see. And it'd also save a lot of work, I think, internally for a lot of people in the long run.
So do we need a motion for that, or is it just consensus? Motion?
Yes. I did make the motion, so I'll be happy to modify it to give a notice for both the Parks Recreation Commission and what's the other one? Public Works? Public Works Commissions and City Council at the same time. I'd say if possible.
I agree with that, and I second that.
Okay, understand that?
I don't know why we would put if possible. It's possible.
It's possible. It might be, though, that something goes before the commission and the commission decides they need more information or they're not able to make a decision on it, and then you've already got a council meeting scheduled that you then have to change.
Well, parks, when is your park meeting?
Fourth Wednesday of the month, which that's going to be my next question after you vote, because
Public
there's two
Works,
coming up.
and then it's council, so that's the order that it'll go.
Yeah, there shouldn't be a problem with scheduling.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, TJ.
So the notice period, is it 14 days? How many days in advance do they need to know before the meetings? 10 days?
There is no law when it comes to
There is
those
no-
meetings, so
okay.
there's law on the council meeting, so it's just a practical notice, like, the mail takes forever nowadays, so.
Because it's
that-
next
that
Wednesday, I
time
think we
we'll have to
can.
just judgment on, it doesn't make sense to give notice on a public works meeting if they're not gonna get it before the meeting happens. Well, we'll have to just, other than that, the practical argument, there's no law saying you gotta, because you don't have to give notice. So you can give 5-day notice, 20-day, we'll just coordinate it so that it meets state statute for council, and it's in practice there before the other two meetings.
Something for you to discuss with your commission is if they are getting something significant, like completely vacated and they get the whole thing, maybe you should look at a park dedication fee, a small one, to go with it. Because they're getting it free. I don't know. So discuss it.
I don't think you can.
Worth a thought. Try
I'd have had money. I'd have sold. All right, good luck with that, TJ. What's
All right.
next?
Item 4C, maintenance shop computer and Wi-Fi. Just to run through, my maintenance shop guys don't have a computer right now. Between trying to look up for parts or do their training, they either have to use our library computers or my computer. So to get them a computer and some Wi-Fi down there would be beneficial. As detailed in the RFCA, this project is reflected in the capital outlay budget this year.
Where is that going to be? Down in the shop outside
Yep.
of the building?
Down in the shop, down that dirt road, that green and tan shop. And right now I can't get through to them on their cell phones because they don't have any service. So having the Wi-Fi to be able to contact them when they're working on some sort of machine or in the shop in general.
I make a motion that TJ Grumman purchase computer and Wi-Fi for the maintenance shop.
I'll second that.
Okay, any other discussion on that? Can you put parental controls on it?
I trust my guys to stay focused on what they're supposed to be doing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. 4D is the Pollock subdivision. We discussed this at the May 26th commission meeting, and it was made as a recommendation from the Park and Library Commission to accept cash in lieu of land for the Pollock subdivision.
I move that we accept cash in lieu of land for the Pollock subdivision as recommended by the Parks Library Commission.
I'll second that.
3,000. Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And just an update on my last item here. We have a 5K coming to the community center on Saturday, July 10th. Ruby's Red, White, and Blue 5K. Acorn Hill will be hosting that event or putting that event on. They serve people diagnosed with special needs in central Minnesota, and they're from Motley, and their goal from these fundraisers that they've been putting on, and this is just one of many that they've been doing. At their facility, they do hippotherapy, which is therapy on horseback for these services for the clients. And due to the harsh Minnesota winters, they don't have an indoor facility right now. So they're trying to raise funds to put up a pole building and an adequate facility to do therapy year round. So it's kind of a neat deal. I just want to let you know because they're going to be running on the road, kind of like the Grampers Run for the Walleye. It's supposed to be a pretty big event, so it's going to be pretty neat. So just an update.
And TJ, the Run for the Walleye now is virtual? It's not?
Correct, it is virtual. I have been working with Dave Fisher. We might have a few runners running during this event. We're going to have signs so they know exactly where to go between each race, but that one is virtual.
Is it too late to kind of get it geared up like it used to be?
That would not be in our hands. That would be WAPOA to make that decision, but I know they have done all their marketing and let everyone know that it is virtual.
That's Fisher's deal.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you much, TJ.
Thank you.
Okay, next is public forum. I'm going to read it. Action may or may not be taken on the issues raised. If council requires more information or time for consideration, the issue will be placed on the agenda of the next regular council meeting. Speaker must state their name. Come on up, Bob. Bob and I had a little cemetery conversation about a month or so ago, right?
Right, yep. And just as a side note, I'm President and CEO of Fry Manufacturing Corp., and we manufacture traffic signal equipment. I own patents on the crosswalks that you see across the state and other parts of the United States. And if you need some pipe, I cut pipe from MnDOT every day. So I can work something out with you if needed. So,
excuse me, can I just get your full name, please?
Sure, it's Robert Fry, 37803 White Pine Trail in Cross Lake. And last April, some topics were brought up about the cemetery, and once again today. And I just had a discussion, a little bit of suggestions, and I'm going to just bring them forward here today. At the meeting, it seemed like there was some funding that had to be come up with from the general fund or whatever line item it came from. And having just purchased some plots for my family in another state, it's fresh on my mind, and so I thought I'd bring this forward. A Pinewood Cemetery Foundation be initiated and operated by the Cross Lake City employees as directed by the Cross Lake City Council. The Pinewood Cemetery Foundation is to be used for investment to generate income to maintain, operate, and improve the cemetery from proceeds of the investment. Only the investment proceeds, not the principal from the foundation, will be used towards the obligations of the cemetery. The City of Cross Lake will continue to oversee and operate the cemetery, funding the difference between the foundation investment proceeds and the financial obligations of the cemetery. The Pinewood Cemetery Foundation will be initiated by offering a 1-year or other directed period of time charter opportunity to current estates, families, or businesses that would like to make a financial contribution during the charter period. Contributions contrary to the city's policies may be rejected by the city. A plaque will continuously display groupings of the charter contributors at the cemetery as a first Pinewood Cemetery Improvement Project. After the charter period ends, future contributors will be recognized and be updated yearly. Recognition groupings and locations of the plaques to be determined at the direction of the City Council. At the time of selling a cemetery plot or plots, a solicitation for a donation from the estate or an immediate gift be deposited in the Pinewood Cemetery Foundation for the care, maintenance, and obligations of the cemetery by its investment proceeds. There should be no minimum amount for individuals, families, or estates to participate in the foundation donation. There may be minimums associated with donors' recognition for contributors or in contributions on the plaques and by businesses. Donations to the cemetery are final and non-refundable. If the proceeds of the cemetery investment outperform the annual obligations of the cemetery, Foundation proceeds may be used for various memorials like war or unborn, improvements and decorations as approved by the City Council. And of course, it would be under the scrutiny of any audit. So basically, it would self-generate the finances needed to operate and maintain and improve and eventually meet the obligations of the cemetery. So I know that in my case, my estate is donating, making a financial donation out there, and that will be generated over time to see to the obligation of the cemetery. If a business, for instance, donated $5,000 as either a charter or down the road, if it's on a 10% return on investment, it's $500 that the city wouldn't have to come up with to make improvements out there. And that's just like one. So anyways, there's some incentives here, and there's some repetition. It'll be something that people can be recognized throughout time. And I've got some handouts here of what I just read, and it's for your consideration.
Who manages that foundation? Would the city manage it?
The city, yeah. You've got everything in place apparently to be able to do that. It's just a matter of a line item, and whoever is selling the plots could give the estate or the person some information on it, and if they want to be a charter member in the first period of time here or continuous after that, and then they would be recognized either by posting somewhere here in this building or out at the cemetery, or like I say, if it starts replicating above and beyond the financial obligations, some kind of a permanent plaque could be erected out there.
Yeah, it sounds like a fabulous concept.
It should work.
Hopefully enough people hear that somebody will drive it home.
Sure, yeah. It would have to be advertised, in the newspaper or handouts or something like that, especially to businesses if they want to be remembered throughout time that they were here. So, or families.
I would like one of those copies if I could have
one.
Yeah,
sure.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Bob while he's up here? Any thoughts or anything?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you much.
Very well, thank you.
Thanks for hearing me.
Yep.
Okay, what's next here? I'm getting lost.
Can you give Shar one over there? She'll probably put it in the notes. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else from public forum? Oh, come on up.
Mike got one. Mike got one.
Still has his stuff here. Just let him.
Oh, okay.
Good evening, Council. I'm Pat Netco, 36084, County Road 66. I am a Cross Lake resident, a Cross Lake business owner, youth director at Cross Lake Lutheran Church, and I'm a Cross Laker. I'm here tonight to say a special thank you to Joe Chase for all of the extra work he has done on the solar watering system for the flowers on the bridges. He had to put new batteries in, and he spent quite a bit of time doing that, and I've been getting lots of calls from people who love the flowers. We've had a little struggle this year. We first planted the bridges on the Daggett, the flowers on the Daggett Bridge, and then we had a freeze warning. So we covered them all, and they survived, and everything's great. And then we had 100-degree weather and all the winds, and the pumps were not working correctly, and the tubing. Anyway, Joe got it all fixed, so kudos to Joe and thank you. One thing that Bob and I want to do is make sure that we thank the City of Cross Lake for our partnership with you and your support for the Cross Lakers and all the different ideas that have come out of the Cross Lakers, which have been many. I want to run over just a few of them tonight. With our connectivity group, our flowers came out of that group. We have, I also want to thank Sandy Anderson, Kara Porter, and Pam Graves, who I believe was on our, she's the one on Zoom that has the t-shirt, I'm a Cross Laker, for their extra work in helping to plant the flowers this year, which was a huge help. Through our connectivity group, we have also, we're able to get the welcome signs that you partnered with us for on County Road 3 and County Road 11, and the banners on 66. The Blue Zone study that was done in in 2016 was a huge part of these projects that are starting. The crosswalks, I want to thank you for painting those crosswalks again. I've thanked you last time, but they are effective. I think the new signs will be effective, and I thank you for your time and your energy and your thought and the dollars to put towards the crosswalks for the safety of our residents of Cross Lake. Also, the Lids to Benches program. The school has been working with all the plastic lids. We've collected and cleaned and weighed over 150 pounds of plastic lids. On Wednesday night, my youth group is going to continue this project. We're hauling all the lids over from the school to Cross Lake Lutheran Church, and my 7th through 12th graders are going to sort and wash and weigh the rest of the lids. They all have to be washed because many people bring ketchup bottle lids in that still have ketchup in them, or milk jug lids that still have milk in them. And they will not accept them in Ohio, so when Cindy and I take a road trip, we want to make sure that our load is accepted. And then we'll be able to get 2 or 3 benches for the city of Cross Lake.
Do you have all the lids you need?
Oh, no.
You need 400 pounds, right, for one bench?
No, it depends on the bench. 150 to 250 pounds per bench, whether it has a back, how big, 4 foot, 6 foot. We're not sure. I'll tell you after Wednesday night when we weigh and do a bunch more of those. Bob wants to talk about a couple things like the water quality. I just want to bring you back a little bit to 2016 when we brought the Minnesota design team here, and we had all of these ideas from people in the community of things that they wanted to see in the community. The number one thing that people all said was the quality of the water of the lakes. Bob's been on that committee. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Bob?
Yeah, I think just to bring it back, I mean, I'm going to assume that everyone here is aware of the Cross Lakers. Is that a fair assumption? Okay. So it's an all-volunteer group, community group. We've got a number of boards. The Water Quality Commission group that we have, for example, at the conclusion of the next project, will have brought about $900,000 worth of grants and funding to take care of the runoff in this community. So that's phenomenal from a little community group that got together that said, what can we change in this town? What can we do different? What can we make better? Our goal as a group is not to poke the bear, so to speak. No, not pointing at you, Mr. Mayor, but you have that bear look at tonight. But anyways, it's just to really bring the community together. And, you know, the flowers on the bridge, good example. People are honking horns as these folks are watering them, and your folks help get the water working again. Boats going by, honking horns, thanking, people calling you as well. So it's overwhelming. And there's a number of notes that I put on the back of here. But we've had about 10 or 12 committees that we've started so far. This kind of came from the point of, you know, change is going to come to us. You know, if we have no vision at all, or if we have an imposed vision, you know, one group trying to impose a message on another, or we can work together and have a shared vision. And so that's our goal, is get together and have that shared vision. And one of our mottos is charting a course for the future. And so that's important to us. Pickleball, we've donated funds for pickleball. For the community courts, there's a new swim dock over at the core, and there's a bench there for Chris Monroe Memorial Bench as well. So there's a lot of folks that have been involved. I tried to go through and tabulate it. There's over 5,000 hours of volunteer time that we've put in since 2016. So I just wanted to make sure that that you knew about what we're doing. We're always looking for new members. We appreciate that we have council attention council support, council attendance at the meetings. There's a lot. There's probably no end to what we can do together. So thank you very much. I don't know if there's anything else.
Yeah, I would just like to add on the dog park, which was, and I'll be really honest, in 2016, that was a thing that many people put dog park on there, and my thought was, are you kidding me? There's so many other things. Why would we want a dog park? But I guess we really did want a dog park, and it's great, and it's being very well used. And, you know, everybody doesn't have to agree on all the things that we want, and sometimes they come out and they're really positive. And so that's a really, really big success. Also, that we're a bird city. We're a national destination for bird watching, which brings people here. The Loon Center, which was an idea that came from Father Ryan Moritz from the Catholic Church, that said, you know, like the Wolf Center in Ely, we need to have a loon center. We have so many loons, and it's blossomed, and look what we've got going on now. John Mobeck has been hired as the director of the Loon Center, and now they're set up in Town Square, and so things are happening with that. The Historical Society, the Train Museum, Historical Society is part of one of our guiding principles, celebrate and preserve Cross Lakes heritage. And I think that we all think that the Historical Society is definitely a gem that we want to celebrate and preserve. Did you have anything else, Bob?
No, I just threw those guiding principles back up just for reference.
Yeah. So thank you for our partnership with you. Thank you for the support for Cross Lake. And we are always looking for volunteers to help the Cross Lakers. Everybody's a Cross Laker. It's how active you want to be. Thank you.
Thank you too, Pat.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks much.
You bet. I just wanted to say one thing. So on that 911 call, Eric, I apologize. Your team was first to arrive. Very professional, appreciated. Didn't want to leave you out there. So thank you.
Okay, anybody else have anything? Okay, let's close public forum then. Any new business? Any old business?
Yeah, I had something on there for the old business. And it was the fire truck, fire engine 2 from last month. I wish Chip was here, because I think part of this discussion, Chip has to be involved in. So I'm going to point out a couple things, and then I'm going to request it be tabled until Chip's here, okay, for a second vote. The thing of it is, everything I read coming from the budget, everything I was receiving, said that the ladder truck was replacing engine 2. So when I put out the question to Chip, have you advertised the truck engine 2 for sale yet? That question was based on that information, and he wasn't too happy with my question. We had a significant discussion, and we voted against it. And the next day, Chip and I had a conversation, a pleasant conversation, I might add. It was a good conversation. And we agreed to bring it to the public safety group, and we discussed it there. They asked that we take a second vote on it, the public safety committee. And I think that I will honor that request from them. But part of that agreement when Chip and I were talking is the length that the truck is going to be kept. If there's any repairs that are going to be done to it, are they, or is it going to be disposed of? When it goes, there's 4 or 5 things, and Chip needs to be here to be a part of that discussion. Okay?
Aaron, I was copied on an email from Chip discussing just this issue. If you want me to put that up, that might answer some of your questions.
I'm welcome to put it up, but I had not seen it.
So we paid about $115,000 back in 2008. It was used. It's a 1997 E1, which is an engine. It has no in Chip's view, it has no value to sell. Could get maybe $15K for it, good shape, but close to the end of its service life. It's more valuable to the city as a reserve engine and a relaying pumping engine. Cost to keep in service is about $1,300 $100 a year. And then he said, Aaron will bring it to the council that we'd like to keep it for about 2 to 3 years and then sell it when we replace our Tender 4. Tender 4 has a 750 pump. When we replace it, we'll putting a 1,500 gallon per minute pump in it, that tender. He won't be at the Chip will not be at the meeting tonight. He was at Grand Rapids for the EMT that died last week. So
Tough reason to be gone.
yeah. So I did speak to him tonight, and he asked me to throw this up there
And that was
for you.
is there needs
Yeah.
to be an end date to that truck.
Yep.
I don't think it needs, we don't need 3 fire rangers.
No, it's not an indefinite type of thing, but he's looking at it to keep it for a few years, and then when we replace Tender 4, that one would go too.
And I'm right now in no major repairs to that truck.
Correct.
If the repair gets much more than a flat tire repairment in the truck, there needs to be discussion on what to do with it.
Sure, so if that's enough information for you to make a decision, that's fine. If it isn't, then you can wait till next time.
And as far as replacing, then they would, at that time, they would replace engine 2 and the 750 tender, gallon tender, in that 2 to 3 year time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And both vehicles would go. That was the agreement that Chip and I had come to, and that was through the Public Safety Committee. And at their request, then I will, and based on what I'm reading here, I will bring it back for a second vote and ask the council to approve keeping it for that 2 to 3 year period.
Okay.
I second it.
That was a motion.
We bring back and we keep that fire truck for that 2 to 3 year period that he has on that email.
Andrew,
Do
second.
we have discussion now?
John discussed. Yep, go ahead.
I guess my thoughts on this whole thing is that from day one of the budget process, we were told, at August 27th meeting, we were told by the chief, the fire chief, that engine 2 was nickel and diming us. It was on the budget documents for replacement. The ladder truck was going to replace engine 2. That's how it was always discussed. And I think when we talked about, we allowed them to go out to Oregon, they were using engine 2, the one that we were being replaced. It always was discussed as being engine 2 being replaced with that ladder truck. So for all of a sudden it to come up, we can't keep on having staff come up and say, this equipment is nickel and diming us, and then we buy the equipment and pretty soon they want to keep it. Now this has happened twice now, and I haven't even been on the council for a year, so I hope this isn't something that's going to occur constantly. Otherwise, I think we should just start looking at repairing equipment, and because apparently it's okay. The equipment is okay because they want to keep it.
That was why we brought it back, is because of the season we're having, and if it continues dry like this, we need the added water that we can get out there. And they can, if I'm correct, they can pump it through that to the engine that's actually pumping water, and they can use it as a tender.
Yeah, but that's what mutual aid is for too. That's your backup. Is mutual aid is your backup.
But I think my motion is to keep it at this point, under those bases that were discussed.
So just to clarify what your motion was, it's to keep it for 2 or 3 years and then get rid of engine 2 and engine 4 or 5, whatever the 2 engines are.
The tender.
And replace it with 1 unit.
Well, it's the tender. I think they call it the tender. And it's get rid of engine 2 and the tender and replace it with 1 new, larger tender.
So do you have a year on that truck that's called the tender?
How old it is?
More than 2 tenders?
No, we did 1 that I'm aware of.
Well,
I'm not sure always it has this one specifically labeled, but what the request is to keep the truck that was previously marked for sale.
Yeah.
And that's what the request is.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to fire equipment. It's just that this was how it was presented all the way through the process until we found out that it was operational and ready to go, and then all of a sudden we want to keep it.
Well, it was the lack of discussion on both sides. We need to have that discussion before it came to where it ended up.
Well, the discussion was replacing engine 2.
But
that was the discussion on both sides.
Yeah.
Okay. You agree with that?
The only thing else I want to add to it is I've heard word that they're running out of room and the fire department needs another garage. And I am going to be, personally, I am going to be against that for
that was the fourth,
a few years.
That was the fourth condition. That was the one I couldn't remember.
I just want it to be on record so that in a year when it comes back and they want another garage, that
the fourth one was it is not to go to Public Works for storage. Okay? Dave, John, any discussion here?
No, I think you had a second here, didn't you?
Yeah, John seconded.
I seconded it.
Discussing.
I thought John had.
He had, yeah.
Okay.
So any other discussion on it? All in favor of keeping engine 2? Aye.
Aye.
Under the conditions.
Under the conditions stated.
Yeah. Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Aye.
Opposed.
Yeah, so, but we'll keep it, but. Okay.
But a word to the staff, please, when you want to do that, come and talk to us about it. Ted did, and I appreciated that. Okay, thank you.
So now, folks, I appreciate y'all coming, but we have to close the meeting for a discussion, attorney discussion. Thank you all for coming.